Hey YouTube, Dan Otto here. I'm coming at you with a end of the season roundup and more importantly looking at the meta for the next season before it begins later today. So let's start with this past season, GBL first season ever that I have never received a legendary Pokemon, and I play all my games every single day. They just nerfed it to the ground. I know some people got one, maybe two. I got zero. Played 2,000 some odd matches, 1,200 plus wins. Like just they weren't coming this season. I got 6 shinies. These are my 6 shinies on the page there. The 3 Miltank from the Miltank day, an Onix, a Lickitung, and a Skarmory. So yeah, that is disappointment there. This whole season was a disappointment. I don't want to just rant too much because I do want to get into these rankings. I think the rankings are important, but like I already talked about it in my past sort of videos. The legendary rewards nerfed to the ground. The game is crashing nonstop and they don't need to be fixing it. The meta has become stale and they did almost zero move updates they did some move updates, which is going to make, I'm going to talk about that in 1 second here, which not enough to shake out the meta, or it's just going to revert back to the old meta, which you're going to see in 1 second. It's what else was the problems? The ending the season without like a pure, just like they should end the season Great League, Ultra League, Master League all the time, but they did not again. They're now going to XL, Ultra League and Master League, so no more Classic, no more level 40 there. So just people are leaving the game. People don't care about this game anymore. It's starting to show, and it's kind of disappointing. But here we are. We are going to, let me make this a little bigger. I can't. There we go. So rankings. So what happened with this rankings was wing attack on Pelipper, Noctowl, and if you decide to run Pidgeot, wing attack have all bumped into the top 10, which is insane. But let's just go look at Pelipper, because Pelipper was one of the best safe swaps in this meta for a long time, and then Registeel, Stunfisk, Bastiodon all came around. Plus then it just got outpaced by other Pokemon, right? So it fell pretty hard. But now it's number 4, and why is that? So if you go to the Great League rankings here, you're going to see it now has the wing attack makes it a 23-15 record. So if you go down to like the sort of slight wins here, like Sableye would have normally been a loss, Walrein would have been a loss, Mandibuzz would have been a loss. So a lot of these losses are now turning into wins in the even. And in a lot of these other matchups, as you can see in the 400s, are getting closer. So watch what happens when you're using this as a safe swap, right? So watch what happens when you do one wing attack advantage here. You go from 23-15 to 27-13, and you pick up a couple more of those Lickitung wins there, and then like look how close these all get, right? So Trevenant, this is I don't know if that's bait dependent because you could see bombs neutral, but basically it's just going to be the steals and the electric. I expect Lantern to make a big return in this meta, so look at like not a ton of hard losses against the meta. So you are going to see a ton of flyers. If you're going to see a ton of flyers, like Pelipper, Noctowl, Pidgeot, you best believe you're going to see a lot of steals to wall them. Registeel, Stunfisk, Bastiodon, right? So now we got all the walls back. These were always a problem in the past before, and now we got the walls back. So now you need something to deal with the steals that you're going to see constantly and the flyers you're going to see constantly, right? So where would I go to there? Trevenant is interesting, but you just get like, Trevenant does okay against Pelipper and stuff like, and Swampert, that's still, Swampert's always going to be the top with Mudshot, Hydro Cannon. But it's going to have problems with Trevenant, Noctowl, but it's still like top meta there. I would actually, so Scrafty was just mentioned by Alfie in the comment section. Like Scrafty is an interesting one because it's bulky enough that it can take some of these wing attacks and still get off foul plays, and then you're gonna like just ramp up against these, right? So if the seal's gonna be everywhere, Scrafty's a nice ramp up there. And Mantine, there we go, another flyer into number 12. So if all those are gonna be here, flyers up here, and you're gonna have some steals here, you're gonna get, I imagine Lanterns are gonna be pretty soon here. Yeah, so it's not a secret, I've already told Tho on Twitter, like I'm bringing Lantern to regionals. It's one of my 6 Pokemon because it is just going to be an incredible option for the flyers, which you're going to see everywhere, right? So you got your Pelipper's and Noctowl, right? You just deal with that, and you beat the Bastiodon, right? That beats one of the two there. I think you're going to have a little trouble with probably, yeah. So like you just get lit up by grass. There's not much you can do there. So you gotta build it around having some grass options there, like grass resistances, like Ninetales or something like that. And then Stunfisk is still going to be a tough option because just it's like ground and grass are going to be two. So Swampert, Stunfisk, you're going to have a lot of just sort of the meta there. But for the most part, like neutral matchups, like does okay neutral. Like you're still okay against the Registeel. Like you can beat Metachamp and Sableye and Scrafty and Toxapex and right. So it's a pretty strong Pokemon. So I expect the Lantern to be prevalent in regionals this weekend, and I expect it to make return in Go Battle League. A lot of these Pokemon like just won't disappear. Altaria is going to be around, Metachamp's going to be around, Lickitung, even though it's going to get walled by the Noctowl, not walled, but have trouble with Noctowl, it's still going to be there, right? Aurorus is an interesting one. So I have not played with Aurorus. It was a constant in the meta for one of the Sylph. So it is a rock ice. So you are double weak to fighting, right? So you're just going to get lit up by these fighters. Scrafty, Toxicroak, and a Swampert is going to hit for super effective on the rock. So like you're in trouble there. So you're going to have to deal with like Metachamp. So that is rough. But having it spammy, I think it's got decent bulk. It's got some nice just close matchup wins against like Lickitung and Umbreon and stuff like that. But then you're like racking up the wins against like these flyers in Pelipper, against the other ice Pokemon, because now you have a rock move that can nail all these Pokemon, and then the flyers are just like taken to town. And look at that, like Trevenant, dominant against Trevenant, 886 against Noctowl. Like those are huge wins. Again, I think you'll see some of them, but just because of how easily it gets beat by Swampert, Registeel, Stunfisk, Metachamp, Obstagoon, like those are pretty hard losses. So I don't think it's going to be running all over the place, but I think it definitely will have play in this meta. So definitely something to look into. I have nowhere near enough candies to do that. Gliscor is another one where like it's the wing attack. Like the fact that you now have 5 wing attack Pokemon in the top 15 is crazy. Pelipper, Noctowl, Pidgeot, Mantine, and Gliscor. 5 out of the top 15 Pokemon have a wing attack, right? Gliscor is an interesting one because it's half ground. So you neutralize sort of the flying weakness to electric, but you add an ice weakness, and there's a lot of ice in this meta still. Plus you lose the like water, water is still a weakness too, right? So a lot of hard losses there, but like you'll get some wins against like Trevenant, and you beat Swampert. That's interesting. I think that may depend on the baits here. But like as a ground Pokemon, having ground for Lantern and Registeel and stuff like that is pretty good. And so yeah, and all these poisons weak to ground too. So definitely interesting Pokemon. I think we'll see it a bit more. I don't know if it'll be meta, but you'll see it a bit more. I think Skarmory, I've been debating. Skarmory is an interesting one. I've been debating bringing it to regionals. I'm not positive I will, but I've debated it. Just because you're going to have some nice matchups against like the flyers, like Noctowl, Metachamp, like stuff that you're seeing in the meta. But again, same sort of weakness, right? Swampert, Stunfisk, those are pretty tough losses to go against. I'm seeing if anything else catches my eye as running up the board here. But for the most part, I think the rest of the Great League meta will stay the same. I'll just bring up Nidoqueen just to see the fall from grace. 136, right? That is just quite the fall from grace. Because you can't just look at that 1722 now. Just, I mean, ground you were going to lose to anyways, but I think it's all these sort of like 400 matchups that you could have otherwise just poison jab, poison fang your way to the win. Like I could have poison jab, poison fang my way to the win against Trevenant. I've played that matchup before, not anymore, right? So it's just a lot of these sort of losses now probably were wins before. So talk about the fall from grace. Not that I think a lot of these will affect Ultra League, but let's just take a look at the Ultra League rankings. Right, wing attack Pidgeot. So I used Pidgeot so many times in Ultra League. If you go to my past videos, Pidgeot, I used it. It was my MVP for a lot of it. So it makes sense that a buffed wing attack Pidgeot is going to be even higher. That makes sense. Of course, Registeel, again, you're going to bump that. Registeel's number 1, right? So Gliscor, same thing, right? So you are going to get these wing attack Pokemon that were like, I mean, Pidgeot was sort of meta before. It's going to be super meta now. Gliscor, more spicy. You'll see it a bit, but more spicy. But for the most part, again, Gliscor, but otherwise, it is looking like the pretty normal meta. Wing attack Charizard, same thing. Like, if wing attack is getting this much of a buff, it could, you got your dragon for your, like, you got your blast burn for your steels, you got your dragons for your other dragons, right? So pretty solid there. Aurorus, same thing here, is now bumped up because, again, ice and rock is a nice combo to have for the Ultra League. But for the most part, I imagine the rest of the same. Pelipper, I don't even think Pelipper gets anywhere close to 2,500 in this, but like the wing attack seems like a substantial buff to shake up the meta. But honestly, if you're going to shake up the meta by putting all these wing attack Pokemon here, you're just going to get Registeels everywhere, right? So I would expect a pickup in Registeels. I would expect a pickup in Fighters. Now that Charm is nuked and Steels will be everywhere. So those are the trade-offs. But then Fighters are going to be lit up by your Flyers. Although Vigoroth, again, Vigoroth was I thought I had my team, but this change actually is making me rethink my Pokemon I'm bringing to Toronto. Vigoroth was an interesting one because it like resisted the Licks on Lickitung and it did like okay against the others. I think it now maybe gets outpaced by the Noctowl and the Metachamp still there. So like that's kind of two strong weaknesses there against the main meta. So we'll see. Anyways, that is it. That's the end of the season. Don't forget your star piece at the end at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time today for the change over the league. And that is it. We'll see. I'll try and do a bunch of battles. So I have videos for like Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Toronto Regionals Saturday, Sunday. Probably just Saturday for me, if I'm being honest. Yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Thumbs up. Comment on the video. Appreciate you helping the YouTube algo. And I will see you guys in the next one.